Good morning and welcome back to Mr. Gary Muirhead. Gary's been out of contact for a couple of days in a bit of the site with absolutely no Wi-Fi. It's a disgrace, isn't it? Surely in this day and age we should have Wi-Fi everywhere, particularly at 10 o'clock in the morning so that people can tune in for this show. Morning, Gary. Good to have you back. What's the weather like up in Scotland? Because it is, it's a bit of a joke down here. And I'm going to be talking about the weather. I realise it's a very British thing to do, but I'm going to be talking about the weather because I'm mindful of the fact that in amongst all of the isn't it hot discussions, there's actually more. There's more to be had. Dan Cullen paints a lovely picture. Good morning, guys. My arse is like Niagara Falls. No shortage of water here. Well, thank you for sharing that. There's an image I'm going to have to get out of my head. Morning all. Happy Hot Friday, says Andy Thornton. Yes, it certainly is. Mark Whiting is here as well. Morning, peeps. Flaming Ada, it's mithering today. I guess that's northern speak for quite warm. I tell you what, in actual fact, what I've done completely inadvertently, it was just once I started, I couldn't stop. I've written 2 morning monologues today. I'm going to do one at the beginning of the show and one at the end. But before we get to all of that, let me remind you that today is this is the final match in the first round of our Mini Excavator World Cup, and it sees Myanmar taking on Sunward, so Japan against China once again. Before I do anything else, morning, everyone. Last day before going to Catalonia on Monday. Can't wait. Actually going to be cooler than it is here, which is nice. Yeah, it was certainly warmer here than it was in Benidorm yesterday. So yeah, got all that to look forward to. Let me throw this up on the screen as well. There you are. That's a reminder. Mini Excavator World Cup. You have to buy a mini excavator using imaginary money. You can only choose out of those 2 brands. Are you going for Sunwood or are you going for Yanmar? I know which way I'm leaning, but that's not important. What is important is which way you lot lean. So yes, the weather. Let's have a quick chat about the weather, or I'm going to have a quick chat about the weather, and then you can join in afterwards. Because as I say, I was sat there last night, and then first thing this morning, thinking, everyone says, "Oh, so hot," and it is. It absolutely is. But I started to think about the wider implications of the heat and our industry. As I say, once I'd started, I kept thinking of new things that I wanted to add. So I've ended up inadvertently, completely accidentally writing another morning monologue. So here it is, okay? I hope this doesn't interrupt your morning too much, but here it is. For us Brits, the weather is not just something we live with and endure. It's a key topic of conversation, a discussion point. But those discussions, like the weather, are about to get way more intense. This current summer heat wave is laying bare a looming potential crisis that our industry is completely unprepared to face. For decades, the British construction and demolition sectors have been geared entirely around battling the elements that we know and with which we're familiar, the relentless rain, the biting wind, and the freezing cold. We've spent generations figuring out how to keep the damp out and the warmth in. But flipping that script to handle sustained, blistering heat will require an absolute overhaul of how we build, how we mix materials, and how we treat the people on the ground. Now, there's a growing assumption that we're heading towards an age where every semi-detached house in the country will be retrofitted with air conditioning. It's a fantasy. Fitting traditional poorly ventilated UK housing stock with energy-hungry cooling units is structurally invasive, prohibitively expensive, and an environmental disaster. Instead, the pressure is mounting on passive cooling. The building regulations are already forcing architects to design new homes with structural solar shading and specialised glazing to prevent overheating before it starts. For the millions of existing homes, the future is not a sudden boom in standard air conditioning, but rather a shift towards heat pumps that can run in reverse to manage the internal climate efficiently. On the job itself, this extreme heat is wreaking absolute havoc with I'll do that bit again. On the job itself, this extreme heat is wreaking absolute havoc with material chemistry. It's a logistical nightmare for project managers who are used to standard curing times. When you pour concrete in this kind of weather, the water in the mix evaporates far too quickly, That accelerates the hydration process, causing the concrete to set long before it's been properly placed or finished. And that rapid drying leads to severe shrinking, cracking, and a catastrophic drop in the dear me. That rapid drying leads to severe shrinkage, cracking, and a catastrophic drop in the ultimate structural strength of the build. Suppliers are being forced to resort to chemical retarders or even adding chilled water and ice to the mix, while crews are increasingly pushed into overnight pours. And asphalt is just as problematic. It needs to be laid hot, but when the ambient temperature is through the roof, the compacted road surface takes an age to cool down to a stable, traffic-bearing temperature. If you open a road too early in a heat wave, heavy vehicles will rut and deform the soft surface instantly. For the road crews laying tarmac in... should have had a bigger drink before I started. For the road crews, laying tarmac in 30-degree weather means standing on a surface radiating over 150 degrees, which is practically unendurable. And that brings us to the most important element in all of this, the workforce. The old macho attitude of expecting lads to slog through the midday sun in traditional gear is a fast track to a major health and safety prosecution, or possibly something far worse. A standard plastic hard hat acts like a miniature greenhouse, trapping heat right against the skull, while a cheap nylon high-vis vest creates an impermeable barrier that stops sweat from evaporating. Expecting a worker to remain sharp and safe while wearing that kit in the soaring temperatures is madness. The industry has to adapt immediately by introducing ventilated helmets and lightweight, moisture-wicking fabrics that still meet visibility and safety standards. We also need to talk about the working day. An afternoon siesta might sound completely un-British, but split shift patterns are going to become the norm. Starting at 5 in the morning and knocking off by 1 in the afternoon to avoid the peak UV and temperature hours is a practical necessity that major infrastructure projects are already adopting. And to back this up, we need explicit statutory exposure limits for heat, managed with the same rigour as hand-arm vibration syndrome or noise. Right now, the guidelines are frustratingly vague, stating only that indoor workplaces should be reasonable, while outdoor workers have no legal maximum temperature protection at all. Height of summer, and I've got a cough. Go figure. We need a standardized thermal comfort trigger system where specific temperatures legally mandate controls, such as a forced 15-minute rest break every hour in the shade and active buddy system monitoring for heat exhaustion. This infrastructure change must also extend to plant procurement. For anyone specifying heavy machinery, treating climate control as an optional luxury is becoming a dangerously outdated mindset. If an excavator has a cab that acts like an unventilated glasshouse, the operator's cognitive function drops drastically within an hour. That's exactly when fatal mistakes happen. Air conditioning and robust cab filtration must be insisted upon as a standard, non-negotiable safety equipment, just like rollover protection. If an operator is baking in a cab, they're a liability to every single person on that site. Finally, we're facing a massive collision between dust suppression and water conservation. When a demolition site is bone dry, keeping dust down is paramount to protect neighbours and workers from potentially lethal silica dust. Traditionally, we've just blasted that dust with thousands of litres of water using misting cannons. But we're looking at a future of severe summer water restrictions and intense public scrutiny. At a time when communities are rightfully questioning the immense water consumption of newly built data centres, a demolition contractor using vast amounts of clean water just to damp down a pile of rubble is going to face a severe regulatory and public backlash. We have to pivot to chemical stabilisers that bind surface dust with a fraction of the water, look at enclosed demolition techniques, and design sites that can capture, filter, and reuse their own runoff water. We also can't ignore what this heat does to the ground itself. Sustained dry spells cause severe soil contraction, particularly in clay-heavy regions like the southeast of England. That can lead to sudden, unexpected movement in trench walls, retaining structures, and the foundations of neighbouring buildings during a delicate demolition job. And you combine that with a skyrocketing risk of site fires from hot cutting sparks landing on parched timber, and it's clear that the traditional British summer is a thing of the past. The climate has changed, and if our site practices don't change with it, this industry is going to get burned. Apologies for the coughing and spluttering. But yeah, that came to mind last night, and I do think it was worth hearing. So let's see what's going on over in the chat. Let's have a look. Who do we have in our midst? I think I've already welcomed most people. What is the actual law on this heat? As the thing said there, I'm going to have a quick look. There are restrictions on indoor, but outdoor, there's not. Gary Muirhead says, we also had a month's worth of rain in 2 hours last night. I'm thinking about building an ark. We've had no rain. I've forgotten what it looks like. More votes on our mini excavator World Cup. The only thing about this, wait to see the weather that's coming. Yeah. See, obviously it's hot. It's hot now. It was hot last year. It will keep getting hotter. And you can argue till you be blue in the face about, ice ages and climate change and everything else. But statistically, it's getting hotter. And, are we moving with the times? Has anyone been involved in the construction of a house or a series of houses with air conditioning built in? I bet you probably haven't. Have you been taken to one side and been given hydration advice on site? Is anyone handing out suntan lotion? Is anybody suggesting that you wear shorts? Probably not. They're probably telling you not to wear shorts and stuff. That's the sort of thing we need to worry about. Mick Norton says, morning all. It actually rained earlier here in Wakefield. Do me a favour, Mick. Would you collect some of it up and send some of it down here, would you? And they're just perfectly timed. Ken's emojis there, but perfectly sums up that thing. I've called it hot topic, and it is a hot topic. Good morning all. It's Friday. It is. Oh, bloody hell, is it Friday? Mr. Mountbatten Windsor is allegedly the only person not sweating in the extreme heat. Mustn't it be marvellous to be the artist formerly known as Prince Andrew, unable to sweat? Yeah, right. Yes, it's relentless. The companies don't care about you after the job is complete. This is where you see the true company's ethic, indeed. I'm fitting passive cooling in my new build, laying a pipe from the dark, cool woodland into the house. See? Practical stuff. Problem is local people complain about noise. How do they work in Las Vegas? Ken, you've been there. And I don't know how they go about working outdoors. I'm sure that is very, very problematic. But a couple of things. Obviously, all of the hotels, all the casinos, all the resorts are air conditioned, and they are bliss to be in. You walk around in 40, 41, 42 degrees heat on the strip. You walk into a hotel and you're instantly cooled. That's one thing. We were speaking to, when we went to Mine Expo, and we went there in September, so it was blazingly hot, and when it was literally up to 42 degrees. And we were talking to a female taxi driver who was taking us back from wherever we'd been. And she was basically saying that she, at this time of year, or that time of year, she watches the temperature gauge on her car. And if it exceeds 120 degrees, which I think is, in mid-40s or something like that, she basically parks her car up because she said it will just do irreparable damage to her car. We don't do things like that. We just soldier on and soldier on. Ken Hatcher says, like my site, don't worry about the dust. But we do, the problem is we do need to worry about the dust. And in fairness, I do think that people are aware of dust. I generally see dust suppression systems on site. But they are using thousands and thousands of litres of water. And I realise it's not on the same scale, but when you look at all the outcry about these data centers that are going to be consuming millions of litres of water, clean water that should be going to hydrate the populace, I think we're going to have less and less tolerance for that. And it is possible you can actually add like a binder into the water. You use less water, you spray it once, and once it basically bakes in the dust. So you can't do it for dust that's falling, but once debris is on the ground, you can cover it up and it will mitigate some of that dust. My cab is always ventilated. The front window is always open. Dan says, this is what I was talking about, street water and roof water filtration needs to be done. Gary, how was Hillhead, Mark? Did you manage to meet up with Mr. Turner at the show? I didn't manage to meet up with Mr. Turner. And I did share my thoughts on Hillhead. Turns out it looks like I was going to say I'm in the minority. I don't know if I am, but I know a number of my colleagues in the press have come back saying glowing things about, what a spectacular show it was and everything else. And I was, Gary, we used a word. I wasn't underwhelmed. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was merely whelmed. It was okay. It was okay. But only okay enough to make me question whether I want to go back in 2028, which will be a Balmer year. Not an issue with the organisers, although there are some. I did have some gripes about that, not allowing children in and so on. My bigger issue is there's not much new to see now, and I do realise I come at this from a very privileged position in that I've been to ConExpo and I've been to Volvo and Bobcat and JCB. I realise that, and not everyone gets to do that. But I got there and I was walking around, and with the exception of a couple of wheel loaders on the JCB stand, didn't really see anything that made me think, something new there. So that's my thought. Mick says, in the Middle East, they regularly lay asphalt and concrete because they are altered mixed designs. They use altered mixed designs and nighttime working patterns to compensate for 40 to 50 degrees temperatures. Adapt and stop whinging. Yeah. But do you get any sense of us adapting? I mean, I think that's kind of the point, is we're not, as an industry, adapting. You will be expected to work for the entirety of today, hottest day of the year apparently, and I'm sweating golf balls and I'm sat indoors with a fan not far away. You will be expected to soldier on much as you would do in the spring, in the autumn, and in the winter. There's no real allowance for what is happening around you in the atmosphere. Dan says, I'm very surprised these companies' councils aren't thinking of this. I'm sure they are thinking of it. But to fix it will require new thinking and quite possibly investment, neither of which we're particularly good at. For watering gardens, wash cart for dust suppression, yeah. Grey water, I think they call it, don't they? Yes, it's getting hotter, but it's still cooler than it was in the medieval warming period. So it's perfectly normal. It's just weather, and the people just need to adapt to it and stop moaning. Okay. I take what you're saying. And fine. And yes, I do think moaning is not necessarily the way forward. But think about houses in the medieval periods. We weren't necessarily big on double glazing back in the day. We weren't using rock wall insulation. Our houses were drafty and largely open to the elements. Not so much of a problem back then. And nobody in the medieval times was expected to go and spend 10, 11 hours at the levers of an excavator in the blazing sunshine. They weren't laying bitumen and asphalt on roads back in medieval times. We do need to adapt, totally agree. But where are they going to get the supply for all this water? I don't know, because obviously, I'm stating the bleeding obvious here. Water is a finite resource. We only have so much, and it keeps going round and going round. But if we're diverting more and more of it towards cooling data centers, our population is getting bigger, and we all need water to drink. We need water for sanitation, and if we need water for dust suppression, I can't do the maths, but imagine, I've got a partial glass of water here. Chances are I will drink that, I'll pee that out, it'll go down the toilet, go off to a sewage station, it'll be filtered, pumped back into the world, and maybe I might get to drink that same glass of water in 50 years' time. If we're using the water at the levels that we are planning to use the water, I might be drinking that every other afternoon, and I don't think our sewage and our filtration systems are equipped to do it. When I was in the Oman, many sites poured their concrete or laid tarmac between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Yeah. And again, I realise this is all an adapt and overcome. But how would you feel about that? If your boss said, we've got a concrete pour, we need you here between 2 and 6 in the morning. Are you good with that? Are you happy with that? Or is that just an intrusion too far? Let me know. Jim Turner says, might try Scott Plant instead, Gary. So you've been warned about a possible invasion. Yeah, as I say, it was okay. It was okay. I'm not complaining. I'm not asking for Hillhead to be outlawed. They still do some of the things very, very well. Logistically, I think it's an absolute feat. Just not sure there was enough there for me to be interested. Lee Mansfield is here. Good morning, mate, and have a good weekend, whatever you're doing. Don't know. I'll need to have a word with the social secretary. She arranges my weekends. Andy Thornton, can't imagine how much heat is kept in a high-vis vest. Even that, bearing in mind, that it is a high-vis vest, and I understand it's there for visibility, and it needs the high-vis strips and. But we do have these advanced even merino wool, but we have wicking fabrics. You can buy underwear now that keeps your nethers nice and cool because it wicks away sweat. Has anyone got one of those as a high vis? Unfortunately, Mick, sadly, this country is full of whingers and complainers that want something in return. Yeah. When is the show going to start? Who the fuck knows? Who the hell knows? I'll get to it in just a moment. Surely someone can come up with a dust suppression system using arse crack water. Plenty of that. Dan, can you hook a hose up to your rear end and cool the site? Cool the concrete before it arrives, or alter the mix design, use evaporation retardants, cool the formwork. Simples, says Mick. Simples indeed. I'd like that, but then they'd be looking for a higher rate to work nights. Yeah, and I want a higher rate to work nights, but I refuse to work in the day because it's too hot. There's a balancing act to be had there. Gary says, look forward to Jim. You'll get a Scottish welcome just like the people of Boston got. And Lee Mansfield laughing. Okay, people, it is time. I will remind you very quickly. It's going on at the top of the screen there anyway, but we do have today's Mini Excavator World Cup final match in round 1. Please let us know which you would prefer, Sunward or Yanmar. I can tell you that, much to my surprise, today is not a whitewash. It's not a whitewash. Dan says, no problem to do that. I've got more water than Niagara Falls. I'm going to go and flush my brain out while I do the next bit. It is time to get on with the show, so let's have a smidgen of this. It is Friday, the 26th of June. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, the authentic voice of the global demolition industry. And in today's show, Kobelco rolls out a brand new excavator. We're getting up close with Volvo's compact excavator line and how Komatsu is taking the gamble out of mining in Nevada. And in today's proper morning monologue, an absence of contrition, why construction means never having to say you're sorry. We'll get to all of that. Have a quick look over here in the chat. What have we got? Okay, I'm going to leave that one, Dan. I see what you said, but I'm going to leave that because I don't want to give the game away. People lived near water or trees in medieval times, so far more adapted than most UK people are today. Houses used to have cellars. Cellars are cool places where air could be pumped up and around the house. Medieval workers would have used their heads and worked around the weather. Shame we're too thick to do that. All the technology in the world and still as daft as a brush, as my dad used to say. Right, let's have a little bit of Caterpillar and then we're going to talk Kobelco. Right, I'm going to be taking a look at the Kobelco SK350. I need to dredge this off my hard drive because the file was quite large for reasons I don't fully understand. Let me see. Here we go. Something has gone horribly wrong there, and I don't know why. Bear with me for 1 second. I may need to come back to that one, I think. Bear with me 1 second. I already had this prepared, and I don't know why it's now playing silly buggers. I'll come back to that. I tell you what, I'll play around with that in the background. Let's do this, and I'll come back to that a bit later in the show.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
As you know, I was up in Eskilstuna in Sweden a couple of weeks ago looking at the Volvo equipment. Probably spent a bit too much time looking at the demolition equipment, the big equipment, and also the electric equipment rather. So I kind of skirted around the fact that Volvo have got a whole host of new compact equipment, particularly mini excavators. And we'll catch you up with those right now.
Hey everybody, Alex Stratton with Volvo Construction Equipment. Today we're going to take a closer look at our compact line, specifically the ECR50, ECR40, and EC37. We're going to dive into the premium features within our compact line.
This model is equipped with a 9-foot boom with offset cylinder below the cab. We have long life steel bushings that allow us to have 50-hour greasing intervals. This machine has an additional long arm at 5 foot 11 inches. This machine can have a standard float blade or angle blade. This unit is also equipped with a Volvo hydraulic quick coupler. This OEM coupler can be operated from inside the cab, allowing the operator to switch buckets or turn the bucket 180 degrees. A manual coupler is also available. At Volvo, we recognize the importance of safety, quality, and comfort. This cab is equipped with ROPS, Level 1 FOPS, and TOPS certification. We have an orange grab bar independently bolted to the side, where it would be easily replaced if damaged. Our large cab entry is just under 20 inches, making it one of the largest in the industry. Additionally, the Volvo will also have an orange footstep that will provide you with better traction when getting in and out of the cab. Below the entry, we have a lockable toolbox, making for a perfect storage solution for chains, grease guns, or any other tools. Taking a look at the back of the machine, we are going to have the exclusive to Volvo hydraulic filter. This additional filter allows the hydraulic motors and hydraulic attachments oil to be pre-filtered before going into the main hydraulic system. Additionally, in the back you will have the main control valve plus the fuel fill. This allows us to inspect the control valve for any potential leaks every time you refuel the machine. Additionally, the hood acts as a protective cover when refueling and is lockable with the same key as the rest of the machine. As we move to the engine compartment, to save time, we have easy access to most maintenance items. This includes the starter, the belts, and the coolers. Taking a look inside the cab, the first thing you will notice is all the available room. The Volvo is going to provide a comfortable, safe environment that any operator would love to work within. The Volvo is going to have full-size metal travel controls, making operating a breeze and taking away from any potential wear points. As you can see, the controls are going to move with the seat. The armrests are adjustable as well, again providing that comfortable experience for the operator. The top window has an integrated storage area for the lower window, allowing for a smooth motion to raise both windows. Inside the cab, you will find a robust heating and cooling system with vents behind the seats, providing the operator with the utmost comfort. While in the cab, you will see the control lever that will operate the float blade. When creating a level surface at a job site, a float blade will handle the task with ease. A button will activate the float feature, leaving you full control to turn on or turn off with the ergonomic lever. The red button on top will control your high and low travel speed. Taking a look at the display, you will see just how customizable your operations can be. Operated by a jog wheel, there are numerous functions you can control inside the display. These functions include pattern control change, auxiliary hydraulics, flows, and if single or dual directions, allowing for multiple saved profiles. If you are interested or have any questions on what you heard today, please reach out to your local Volvo dealer. They would be more than happy to help.
Okay, going to address, Dan has said this. Here's a question. On all MIDI excavators, why can't they have boom turned 70 to 90 degree to the left? I'll make it a simple adjustment to either angle. All I would say is, I guess it's additional engineering, additional cost, additional maintenance. I guess that's the absolute answer. Mick Norton, going back to our talks about the weather, with extreme temperatures in mind and materials, it's important we don't forget contractors control the temperature of the materials, not the environment. To a degree. I mean, bitumen and asphalt, I think that's a key one. You know, there's this mad dash when we've laid a new road, let's get it open, let's get it open to traffic, which most of the time you can do. But if you've opened a road too soon now and it's still hot, and that asphalt and that bitumen has not quite cured, you're going to immediately start to destroy the road. But I'll take your point. Now, Dan says this, Kobelco 350 was one of the best machines I've ever operated, apart from the Doosan 300. I've figured out what was wrong with the Kobelco 350 video. I was trying to bring up the one without sound on it. So let me try this again, and I will show you the proper one now.
The SK350LC-11E. Our 35-ton class heavy excavator is designed with performance and productivity in mind, delivering the reliability you have come to expect from Kobelco. Built on Kobelco's performance by design philosophy, the SK350 boasts the same enhanced functions and operator comfort found in our other -11E series heavy excavators. A powerhouse of a machine, you can trust it to help you get the job done in a multitude of construction scenarios. This machine redefines productivity, setting a new benchmark in performance and design. Meticulously crafted with the operator in mind, this machine guarantees unparalleled comfort and operational ease, without any compromise. Taking precision and efficiency to the next level, the SK350 is equipped with a new Stage 5 210 kilowatt Isuzu engine and a finely tuned hydraulic system. Whether you're digging or lifting heavy loads, this machine provides exceptional accuracy, ensuring you have complete control. The SK350 delivers unparalleled versatility. Available in both standard and narrow undercarriage versions, it is well suited to tackle a variety of jobs, from excavating boulders to demolishing buildings. Furthermore, you can enhance customization by choosing from various options, such as a two-piece boom, a range of arm choices, different track widths, and a bigger capacity auxiliary pump. This ensures the SK350 can be tailored to meet all of your specific requirements. Fitted with a ROPS, TOPS, and OPG Level 2 certified cabin, the SK350 emphasizes operator safety through a protective enclosure that complies with industry standards. 3 cameras positioned on the right, left, and rear boost operator awareness and job site safety. Additionally, 2 extra LED lights on the counterweight provide ample illumination for work areas, improving visibility in low-light environments. This setup not only minimizes the risk of accidents, but also enhances overall safety. Embodying the power of innovation, the SK350 adheres to Stage 5 emission standards, showcasing a robust commitment to environmental sustainability. Operators can choose between heavy, standard, and eco-work modes, allowing for a harmonious balance between high performance and fuel efficiency. The different work modes available ensure optimal productivity while promoting eco-conscious machine operation. By utilizing the power of independent travel, one hydraulic pump is dedicated to travel and another to the front end, ensuring continuous and smooth movement speed. This powerful feature allows for easy and safe transportation of large pipes across job sites, even during complex maneuvers. The SK350LC-11E, embodying Kobelco's performance by design philosophy, redefines performance and productivity while prioritizing operator comfort and safety. With exceptional efficiency, precision, unmatched versatility, and eco-friendly operation, these excavators are truly built for perfectionists.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Thanks for the heads up, Dan. I was having a coughing fit while that Kobelco video was playing, so I turned the microphone off and then forgot to turn it back on again. You should be hearing me loud and clear now. As I was saying, I was actually speaking to myself, but I'm going to say it again. We're going to Nevada with Komatsu. I would imagine it's quite warm in Nevada. I wonder if it's as warm as it is here. Probably. Here we go.
Moving towards automation, particularly on a haulage fleet, was really driven by safety, removing the exposure to mining hazard from our workforce. Now that we're pulling them out of haul trucks and putting them in other roles in the field, there's really been some positive momentum starting to generate. When people come to the area, they want to stay. We'll have a total of 23 trucks here operating autonomously at Cortez.
I love it. It's probably one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life. So when they introduced me to the front runner Komatsu system, I was really sketchy and really standoffish, but once I got out, started learning and being around the trucks, then I became 1,000% comfortable with it. I told them I don't want to go back, I want to stay here and learn more, and just it's an awesome system.
Everyone in the open pit will receive some type of training. For the Komatsu front runner system specifically, to date we've put about 700 people through almost 9,000 hours of training overall.
The process for Komatsu to get us trained has been awesome. This is a very structured training, very detailed, and it covers everything. And they ensure that everyone that comes through is competent in that training prior to just releasing them on their own.
Yeah, seeing the change from man to auto, I think we're right in it and we're still seeing it happen, but I think it's been such an amazing shift of, hey, this idea of how to automate things. So far it's been amazing to see that, just the tip of the iceberg on that culture change.
One of the reasons we ended up selecting Komatsu for their system was not only the tech worked, but they knew how to deploy it and they knew how to help us run it.
The beauty of the front runner system is that it actually is very clear. You don't have the ambiguity on how you need to support that. You have set guidelines, and that's something that the automation system really does provide. I would recommend the Komatsu system off the simple fact that it's understandable at all levels.
I want Cortez to be here for a really long time, and automation is that next step going forward.
Pretty smart. I think you'll agree. Yeah, Mick Norton's picked up that autonomous lead man. What a fantastic title. Yeah, lead man as opposed to lead robot. Dan saying, if I win the lottery, I'd buy a few JCBs, Kobelcos, Doosan's or Liebherrs, Komatsu machines. If a deal could be reached, buy old and restore them. Good way to see out your days. Mick Norton says, we're going back to the subject of heat again. I remember in Thailand in 1966, a mechanic not keen to undertake a repair placed a thermometer on the floor plates of my cabless Cat D8H dozer with upward transmission heat. It hit 165 degrees Fahrenheit at 73 degrees Celsius. Yes, that's a little bit warm. I totally agree with you. Right, people, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I do need to let you know I'll be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. No show Friday because it is my mother-in-law's funeral on Friday next week. So, yeah, I will be absent, I'm afraid. But just warning you in advance. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my second morning monologue of the day. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues. Stay hydrated. Stay cool if you can. Hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll be back after this. The sequence is as familiar as it is clinical. An incident occurs on a construction or demolition site. A structural failure exposes systemic negligence. A plume of dust blankets an entire residential neighbourhood. A company is caught with its hand in the proverbial cookie jar. A worker is sent to work at a site and arrives to find there's no job. Or, in the most tragic cases, a worker doesn't go home to their family at the end of a shift. And what follows is entirely predictable. The health and safety executive investigates. Agencies shrug their shoulders. The lawyers retreat behind a wall of jargon. Years later, a court hands down a substantial financial penalty. The HSE issues a press release celebrating a successful prosecution. The company pays the fine, and the corporate machinery grinds relentlessly onwards. But look closely at the aftermath of these industry disasters and mishaps, and you'll find a vacuum where something human ought to be. You'll find a total absence of contrition. In the UK built environment, companies will take their punishment, they'll endure the bad press and pay hundreds of thousands of pounds to the courts, yet almost never will a director stand before the public, look into a camera and simply say, "We're sorry. We got this terribly wrong. We take full moral responsibility." In a sector built on heavy machinery, concrete and steel, the rarest commodity of all is any form of remorse. It's easy to understand why an organisation remains silent while an investigation is active or a trial is ongoing. Corporate defence solicitors routinely muzzle executives, warning them that an early expression of regret might be perceived as an admission of liability. But the non-contrition continues long after the legal battle is lost. Even when a construction firm is prosecuted, found guilty, and thoroughly condemned by a judge, that silence persists. The corporate strategy merely shifts from defending a criminal prosecution to mitigating the inevitable civil and media onslaught. A criminal conviction is the ultimate catalyst for a multi-million-pound personal injury claim, structural rectification suits, and contract terminations. If an executive offers a heartfelt apology at the foot of the court steps, corporate insurers view it as an act of self-sabotage. Professional indemnity and liability policies often contain strict clauses forbidding any admission or statement that could compromise the insurer's civil defence. Consequently, the muzzle stays firmly attached long after a guilty verdict is delivered. Nowhere is this lack of remorse more starkly illustrated than in the tactical deployment of corporate restructuring. When faced with catastrophic failures or ruinous prosecutions, certain corners of the construction and demolition sectors engage in an underhanded administrative practice known as phoenixing. When a company realizes that an upcoming prosecution or a major structural defect claim will bankrupt them, the directors don't apologize and they don't attempt to make amends. Instead, they liquidate the indebted entity, leaving suppliers, victims, and taxpayers empty-handed. And days later, the very same directors re-emerge under a slightly altered name, operating from the same yard, using the same plant and machinery, and chasing the same contracts. That's not a financial survival strategy. It's the institutionalized avoidance of accountability. It sends a clear message to the market. Liabilities are for fools, and regret is a luxury we're unwilling to pay. The business rises from its own engineered ashes, entirely unburdened by the ethical weight of its past mistakes. That emotional detachment manifests across three major operational fronts: the human, the environmental, and the commercial. When a life is lost on site, the standard corporate statement reads like it was written by a computer algorithm. It offers deepest sympathies to the family, a phrase carefully calibrated to sound sympathetic without accepting an ounce of blame, before immediately pivoting to a defense of the company's otherwise exemplary health and safety record. The human being is reduced to an unfortunate statistical anomaly. Environmentally, the sector treats contrition as an unnecessary line item. When a demolition project blankets a town in silica dust or improperly disposes of hazardous waste, the resulting fine is treated merely as a frictional cost of doing business. There's no moral self-reflection, no public town hall to apologise to residents whose health was put at risk. The cheque is signed, the ground's cleared, and the profit margins are recalibrated. Commercially, we see a similar arrogance play out in massive infrastructure delays and budget overruns. When public projects run years behind schedule and millions of pounds over budget, the taxpayer is treated to a parade of excuses: unmapped utilities, unforeseen ground conditions, weather, supply chain volatility. What the public never receives is an apology for basic management incompetence. The prevailing attitude is that the public should be simply grateful that the structure was built at all. To truly understand this corporate coldness, you have to look at the historical, cultural, physiology, at the cultural, you only have to look at the historical, cultural psychology of British construction. It's a sector born out of grit, physical danger, and raw masculine bravado. For decades, altering the built environment has been viewed as a form of combat against nature, gravity, and time. Within that deeply ingrained culture, an attitude has developed that views disruption, environmental damage, and even physical injury as the inevitable tax of progress. You can't make an omelette without breaking eggs is an unwritten industry motto. In this world, contrition is deeply unfashionable. It's fundamentally misinterpreted as a sign of weakness and admission that management lacks the stomach for the brutal, high-stakes realities of the built environment. Leaders within the sector would rather be viewed as tough and unyielding and pragmatic than accountable or human. This refusal to say sorry may have served the industry well in the legal landscape of the 20th century, but it's fast becoming an existential liability in the modern business world. We're now living in an era where corporate survival is increasingly tied to environmental, social, and governance metrics. Procurement boards, local authorities, and tier 1 developers are no longer just looking at a tender's price tag. They're scrutinizing the ethical fabric of the supply chain. An industry that refuses to demonstrate basic human remorse can't successfully navigate that shift. When a sector systematically prioritizes legal insulation over moral accountability, it destroys its own license to operate. It alienates the local communities it disrupts, frustrates the clients that fund it, and ensures that it will always be viewed with deep suspicion by the wider public. Construction and demolition firms are master engineers of the physical world. But until the sector's leadership learns to pair its technical resilience with basic accountability, it will remain fundamentally broken and inhuman. The industry needs to realise that acknowledging a failure with genuine contrition is not an act of corporate surrender. It's the very first step toward building an industry that possesses a conscience and a soul. Construction. Never having to say you're sorry. There you are. What have we got? Let me go back a little bit. Yes, go back to this. Who is that? Dan Cullen saying, God, Mick, you need to write a memoir. I agree. Mick has written some stuff. He needs to write more. Mount of Memories, you've had a great read. Yeah, condolences on your family loss, Mark. Yeah, thanks for that, Andy. Although the truth is, I mean, it happened like it may even be 6 weeks ago today. Funerals take a long while these days. I'm not entirely sure why they have shifted. I know it was a good 6 weeks after my mum died that we had her funeral. Same with my dad, and the same again now. Lee Mansfield, I was on a brand new Kobelco, one of them diggers a few years ago, and I didn't like it. Wow. Well, I wouldn't say you're absolutely in the minority, but you're the first person I think has been on the show and said, not keen on the Kobelcos. Maybe you caught a dud, eh? The people behind the computers, phones, computers, office don't care about the men on the ground. Same as it ever was. They never say sorry because the blame game filters out through others. Yeah. I mean, and I realise this is just a minor thing, but we had Jamie Tarvui on talking about how he was treated. Dan has arrived for a number of jobs and been told no job for you here. He's travelled halfway up the country to get there and say no, there is no job. Now, you may well take the agency to court. You may well take the employer to court. You may get your money back. You may get your petrol back or your petrol money back and so on. Does anyone ever actually say, yeah, I'm sorry, mate, my bad, I screwed up there? Not ever. Not ever. Mick says, legal liability suppresses humanity. The moment a worker dies, every lawyer involved tells management, do not apologise, do not admit fault, do not express responsibility. And I was taught that very, very early doors. I remember when I first started to drive after I passed my test. And I remember my dad saying, should you ever be in an accident, don't apologise, don't accept liability, because, if you do, you're banged to rights, basically. And I understand that. I do understand that. But when you have been prosecuted for an accident, a chemical spill, the dispersal of dust into a local neighborhood, an injury or an accident or a fatal accident, when you've actually been prosecuted, found guilty and fined, is that not the time to say, yep, we fucked up there? Lee Mansfield says, I was on a brand new 210 Kobelco a few years ago. Oh, I've done that one. Did that come through twice? I think it did. Mick Norton says, after a UK fatality, priorities are protect the brand, control the narrative, limit legal responsibility, and resume operations ASAP. Shameful. And that is just about spot on. Yeah. Protect the brand, control the narrative, limit your legal responsibility, get back to work, and never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say you're sorry. Andy Thornton, companies can utilise Phoenixing as a false reset, but the truth is they still have the same staff, same broken processes, and exactly the same rabbit holes to fall down again. Also avoidable, yeah. And what I find strange about that is the fact that we know this. you know, listen, you know, I've had a company go down on me. I'll be the first to admit it. You know, we had a company go pop on us, and you know, it was uncomfortable. But we paid back all our debts, and I came back, and I've never done it again. And you know, as I say, because I paid all my debts, I'm still dealing with people now that I kept waiting for money for a good few months, 10 years ago, or whatever. I'm dealing with them again now. But if you are a repeat offender, you know, if every other year you're taking your company to the cleaners, and then coming back and saying, oh, you know, we're Mark Anthony 2026. We look the same. We're in the same place. We've got all the same equipment, but we're different. And yet the market just said, oh, yeah, maybe this time everything will be okay. Dan, really, Lee, that's strange. Yeah, I think that's strange. Very rarely hear that about Kobelco. As you know, Mark, I'm working exactly on this issue. P.S. Thanks for your advice on this. It's helped me revise the product. Andy, it's all part of the service, my friend. I look forward to actually seeing it out in the real world. Well, that's unbelievable. That's a terrible thing not to apologise. Yeah, I mean, genuinely, and even I'm not talking about, you know, if one of your mates eats your last sandwich or eats your last biscuit or spills his coffee in your lap. I'd like to think that most right-minded people at that level, you know, co-workers, colleagues, would say sorry. But have you ever had a boss apologise to you? Sorry, you've got to work away from home when it's your daughter's birthday. Sorry, we've sent you halfway up the country for a job that didn't actually exist. Sorry, that lump of concrete crushed your foot. Is anybody? Love to hear from you. Dan says they don't even say sorry to the families affected. Look at Didcot. Still no blame and no apologies to the families affected. No. And again, I will go back to what I was saying just now. Even if you know, something happened today and the whole thing was fast tracked, and you know, the court handed down its findings on Didcot and appointed blame, appointed responsibility, levied fines, and everything else. Whoever is found responsible for that, found responsible, to blame, negligent in any way, I do not expect anyone to say, yeah, sorry. They will pay the fine, they'll take the punishment, get back to work. Andy, when can we organise a meetup? Dan, I'll leave you and Andy to fathom that out. People, I am going to have to call it a day because I am... Okay, I was going to overstate it. I was going to say I'm dying here. I am literally leaking right now. I need to go and cool off because it is really, really warm in here today. I'm going to love you and leave you. I'll be back on Monday, as I say, Monday through to Thursday. No show on Friday. Dan says I've never been apologised to for travelling to locations. Next to no communication. Say jobs cancelled. No, you just get there. Oh no, mate, we don't need you. On your bike. That's it. We must have empathy for families left behind as they experience silence, coldness, corporate statements, and no apology. Totally right. Talking of Kobelco, I gave the Blade Runner a good coat of looking at the other day. Nice machine, but they're missing a few tricks with it. Chris Ford, yes, that is my new nickname, Sweaty Betty, or Betty Swallocks, actually. Have a wonderful weekend, guys. No Saturday show. No, not this week. There was going to be. My Komatsu film is 98% done. I am hoping and praying that Komatsu can come up with just one more element to it that will tie it all together. They're working on it. They haven't done it yet. They're working on it. So I'm going to push it back a little bit, but it will be coming and it will be worthwhile. People, go and have a fantastic day. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay cool. Stay hydrated. See you Monday. Behave yourselves. See you soon.